So today we are going to analyze geography and environment related news from 11th January from The Hindu and Business Line. The first news that came up was 2024 was the first year to breach global warming limits, show data. So about this news, the first thing, this has been from a report which is Global Climate Change Highlight. So Global Climate Change Highlights, and this report has been released by Copernicus Climate Change Service. So first, what are the major observations over here? So the main observation of this report is, as the report reads, 2024 was the first year to breach global warming limits. So the observation is that 2024 has been the warmest year on record, and in this year, okay, the temperature has reached 1.6 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. First thing over here, so what is this pre-industrial level? The pre-industrial level, if we see, okay, this is what is considered to be the temperature, some mean temperature for these 50 years, that is 1850 to 1900. So this 50-year mean average temperature, this is called as pre-industrial level, and 2024 it was 1.6 degrees above this pre-industrial level, as well as the ocean sea surface temperature outside the polar areas, that also was recorded to be the highest. Now, if we can recall the Paris Agreement agrees upon that the temperature rise has to be kept within 2 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial level, and efforts have to be made to keep it well within 1.5 degrees Celsius. So this is what we are talking about, that this 1.5 degrees Celsius limit that was agreed upon in Paris Agreement, that has been breached now. That is one thing. But the report over here observes that this is only 1 year occurrence which has happened. Okay, it cannot be considered to be a regular trend unless and until we have a long-term data. So unless and until it is almost a decade where the temperature remains in this particular range, we should not consider it to be that actually it has been breached overall permanently. But yes, this is alarming. Second thing, now we have to know about the Copernicus Climate Change Service from the examination perspective. So Copernicus Climate Change Services, if we see, this is one of the 6 services, okay, provided by the Copernicus Earth Observation Program. And this Copernicus Earth Observation Program, this is a program of European Union. You can see over here climate change is one of that, apart from marine monitoring or atmosphere or land or security or emergency management. So Copernicus Earth Observation Program. Now this Copernicus Climate Change Service, this is implemented by European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, okay, which is an independent intergovernmental organization. So from there this service is provided, and that is from where we have had this particular report, that is Global Climate Change Highlights. So this was the first news that we had, okay, with respect to the climate change. Now, so here only the major observations are important, okay, no specific aspect. This particular observation we can use in answer writing related to climate change. And the question, of course, in prelims can be on this Copernicus Climate Change Service. The next news which was covered was very important. This news came in both the Hindu as well as Business Line, and the news was related to the climate smart agriculture. So you can see, as in the first news has been read, from droughts to floods, all about India's dual strategy to combat climate change in agriculture. And second, government going natural to push climate smart farming. Okay, both of these news from Business Line, and a similar news came in The Hindu also. So with respect to this, what we have to cover mainly is the concept of climate smart farming and the related concept, of course, plus the institutional aspect of this climate smart farming, and dealing with what the news is saying India's dual strategy to combat climate change. So first, let's talk about this climate smart agriculture. So climate smart agriculture overall, if I see, basically has three components. What are these three components? The first component, which is sustainable intensification. Now, sustainable intensification means increasing the production. So increasing the production, but okay, keeping in line with the climatic aspect of the agriculture. Okay, that is the climatic or pressure on environment has been minimized. Take for example over here, when we talk about the integrated farming system or the precision agriculture, okay, these can come under sustainable intensification. Then we talk about second aspect, that is adaptation. That is, climate change is happening. Okay, we can't deny that fact. So how agriculture can adapt to this particular fact that climate change is occurring. So adaptation is the second component of climate smart agriculture. And if I talk about adaptation over here, what can be adaptation strategies? Let's say, for example, the first, that is the climate resilient crops. Developing, this would be a function of research and development, developing climate resilient crops. Okay, similarly, efficient water management. So these can be adaptation features. And then the third component, which is mitigation. Mitigation, basically in mitigation, what all will come? That is, let's say for example, natural farming. So natural farming, not harming the environment. Okay, that can be one mitigation aspect related to this. Similarly, there can be other practices, like take for example agroforestry. Agroforestry, again, reducing the impacts on environment. See, these are two different things. First, here adaptation, we are talking about climate change is happening, how can we adapt to that? And mitigation is where mitigating the climate change aspect, wherein we are focusing on reducing the harm to environment. So natural farming, agroforestry, or certain type of practices, like take for example use of biochar. These are three different components related to climate smart agriculture. Based on this, now when I talk about what are the practices that can be included under climate smart agriculture, there can be a number of different practices, but few important ones if I have to cover. Let's say for example, the first one that is considered under this is crop diversification. Now, crop diversification has a lot of benefits with respect to the optimal use of resources, which can be soil resource, the nutrients in the soil, or which can be water resource. So crop diversification is a very important aspect related to that. In addition to that, okay, resource use efficiency. So resource use efficiency is the second aspect in which the water use efficiency will come. Then soil health management. Soil health management is another aspect to that. Then we have agroforestry, which we have already written earlier. Agroforestry is a practice, or integrated pest management. Integrated pest management, where there can be more focus on natural pesticides, use of natural pesticides. So these can be different practices related to climate smart farming. Now, overall, when we talk about climate smart farming, the question is, what are the benefits and what can be the challenges with respect to climate smart farming? So first, of course, when we say benefits, that is related to the increased production and productivity overall in the agriculture. But along with that, the main focus is on climate resilience or climate change resilience, making agriculture more resilient to climate change, and overall reducing emissions. That's the aspect related to the benefits of climate smart farming. But along with that, what we see is there are a lot of challenges in the adoption of climate smart farming. What can be these challenges? The first and foremost is high cost, high initial cost. So initial cost of adoption can be pretty high because of the technologies which are involved in the climate smart farming. Along with that, because the technologies are required, so technology gap again would be another challenge in the adoption of climate smart farming. Plus, you can have policy and institutional challenges, whether the policies support climate smart farming or not. Do you have incentivization to push the adoption of climate smart farming or not? And then we can have the socio-cultural barriers also. Now, socio-cultural barriers, when we say that there are traditional old age methods of farming to which the farmers stick to. So that's the socio-cultural aspect where they may be reluctant to give up those traditional methods of farming and adopt the new methods. So socio-cultural barriers. So overall, if we see benefits and challenges of climate smart farming. Now, related to this, there are few concepts. Like over here, we have seen under one component of the mitigation, that is use of biochar. So this can be an interesting question for prelims. When we talk about biochar, so biochar, what is biochar? So biochar is precisely a carbon rich form of charcoal. How do you get biochar? Biochar we get by the pyrolysis of organic material. Now, what can be these organic material? These organic material can be wood, or these can be the organic residue from the agricultural activity. Okay, any of these pyrolysis over here would mean burning them in limited supply of oxygen. So the pyrolysis of organic material that produces biochar. Now, biochar is this powdery substance, and so this biochar, okay, is very useful in agriculture. When you see what is its use, so overall, first thing, application of biochar is going to increase the soil fertility as well as, okay, increasing the microbial activity in the soil. So soil fertility, microbial activity is increased, plus along with that, carbon sequestration. So carbon sequestration, when I say the organic material has the carbon locked in it. When you are going to burn it, the carbon is going to be released in the environment. But when you convert it into biochar, it becomes a very stable substance and it can remain in the soil for hundreds and hundreds of years. So this is where instead of burning openly and releasing the carbon into the air, we are locking it in the soil in the form of biochar. So carbon sequestration. Along with that, it increases the water retention of the soil. Water retention of the soil, okay, allows easy absorption first of all, because it's the porous substance, okay, as well as retention of this water in the soil. Okay, this is what are the benefits with respect to biochar. But along with that comes up the limitation also, challenges also in the adoption of biochar, and this challenge mainly comes, okay, with the technology. Production of biochar, first of all, production of biochar, this establishing the process itself can be costly. So high initial cost as well as the technology gap again can be there with respect to the production of biochar itself. So that is first concept, biochar. Apart from that, another aspect that we were dealing with is the sustainable intensification. And in sustainable intensification, okay, I told you one method, that is precision agriculture. Precision agriculture. Now, what do we mean by this term, precision agriculture? So, precision agriculture or farming, this is mainly related to the use of technology in agriculture. Now, this use of technology, this can include the use of geographical information system, okay, or GPS, or apart from that, remote sensing. And what would be done over here mainly is with the help of GIS, GPS, specific information, or with the help of remote sensing, take for instance aerial survey, use of drones. With these specific information about individual fields would be collected, and based on this information, customized requirement for the field would be determined. Now, when the customized requirement for the field has been determined, the inputs would be applied very precisely. It's not a one size fit all that everywhere you are using the same amount of fertilizer, you are using same amount of pesticide. No. Based on the geographical information, by using technology, which will include collection of data also, processing of the data also, and then dissemination of the data, including all of this, the information would be generated, the requirements, input requirements would be generated, and this is going to be precise input or precise amount of inputs applied to the agriculture. That is why we call it precision farming. So precision farming, where variable rate technology, the terminology over here would be variable rate technology. Variable rate we are saying because I told you different fields will have different requirements. So that requirement would be determined variable rate technology. Precision farming mainly is associated with the use of technology in agriculture. This is now the first idea related to climate smart farming. But question now about climate smart farming is the challenge, and most important challenge I told you is high initial costs. Even when you are talking about precision farming, which comes with the use of technology or production of biochar or any other method, okay, it involves high cost. And so the challenge over here for us would be mainly the financing. And with respect to that comes up this concept now, which is the concept of the climate bond. Now, climate bond, what do we mean by climate bond? Climate bonds, these are the financial instruments to raise the funding from the market. Now, how does this climate bond work? Is overall the first stage where the issuance and funding comes up. Issuance and funding would mean that these climate bonds are issued. Issued by whom? Climate bonds, these can be issued by national governments. These can be issued by municipalities. These can be issued by different corporations or financial institutions. So all of these can issue these bonds. So now a bond has been issued. So I am person X and I purchase these climate bond. And this is the financial institution which has issued me this climate bond. Now, what this financial institution is going to do when I have purchased this climate bond, I have given some money. Now, this money, this financial institution is going to use to fund any project. And what this project would be aiming at under climate bond, if I say, it would be related to any project which is related to the same concept of mitigation and adaptation related to climate change. It can be a renewable energy project. It can be a waste management project. It can be agricultural project. Okay, anything which is related to the adaptation or mitigation. So this financial institution or national government or any corporation raises money from individuals or from the market to fund any project. Now, first these bonds are issued, and once these bonds are issued over here, second stage is the use of the proceeds. So whatever money comes, that is used to fund the project, the use of proceeds. Along with that, now these bonds have to be certified. So for certification, there are certain institutions which are going to certify. Certify what? Certify, I have to get an assurance that if I am purchasing some climate bond and giving the money to financial institution, they are using it in the manner as they promised. That is for specific projects only. And this is going to be certified by certain agencies. Okay, some standards would be set, and based on that, certification would be done. So this is where I will get assurance that my money is utilized in a correct manner as promised. And then reporting on use of proceeds. Regularly, the financial institution will generate reports. Okay, the report which I am going to get also how they are using the money. Certification is one thing. Certification would be done before the funding already has taken place. Certification would be done by external agency, but later financial institution has to generate a report and tell me how the money has been used. So how the use of proceeds have undertaken. This is whole of the system. And what do I get in the return? What do I do with the climate bond? So climate bond, I told you, is a financial instrument. Ultimately, what I am going to get with climate bond would be some interest that I would be getting on a regular basis. And ultimately, at the end of the term of the climate bond, 1 year, 2 year climate bond, whatever I purchase, okay, I'm going to get my principal back also. So it works pretty much similar to any other financial institution which I purchase for a specific time. I earn interest on that, and I later at the end of the term I get my principal back also. So this is how the climate bond works. Now for this climate bond, the agency which now certifies this is where the agency comes, which is called as Climate Bond Initiative. Now this is a non-profit agency, non-government, non-profit agency. This sets the standards for the climate bonds as well as issue the certificates for that. Now climate bond is similar to something called as green bonds. The only difference is green bond is a more comprehensive idea related to what projects it cover. Climate bond only focuses on the projects related to adaptation and mitigation. Green bond covers all the other aspects. So effectively, if I see green bond, the climate bond would be, so green bond, climate bond would be a subset effectively of the green bonds. So, all the climate bonds, one statement which I can use to remember this would be, all the climate bonds are green bonds, but all the green bonds are not climate bonds. Climate bond is specific to adaptation and mitigation. So over here, what the climate bond initiative has done with respect to agriculture, because we are talking about climate smart agriculture, funding of climate smart agriculture. So climate bond initiative has created certain criteria which I can identify as the agriculture criteria for climate bond. Now these agriculture criteria, what criteria have to be met to issue a climate bond for a project related to agriculture? First thing, of course, is what we already has said, climate change, mitigation and adaptation. Any project which is focusing on that, plus along with that, if it is producing some environment and social impact, or along with that, okay, deforestation prevention, with respect to agriculture, deforestation should not happen, that is a criteria, and the management of greenhouse gas emissions. Any agriculture project which has to be funded through climate bonds have to meet these criteria: mitigation, adaptation, environment, social impact. There should not be any deforestation, and some form of greenhouse gas emission, which also now in effect covers livestock rearing under the agricultural projects. So this is what is the concept related to the climate smart farming. And so I am going back to the news where it talked about all about India's dual strategy to combat climate change in agriculture. What is this dual technology the news is talking about? And that's the idea where, with respect to all of this climate smart farming, what is India doing? So when we talk about India's strategy, and this would be very important for answer writing effectively, India's strategy, when we say under India's strategy, again, adaptation, mitigation. These are twofold strategy. That's what they were referring to as the two different strategies, two-pronged strategy of India. And under adaptation, the same features would come. Okay, where we are talking about climate resilient crops come up, efficient water management. These two already we have seen. Take for instance, efficient water management. India is promoting drip irrigation, so drip irrigation will come under this only. ICAR is working on developing a number of different varieties of climate resilient crops. And along with that, in India, what is focused upon is the crop insurance. Because we are talking about adaptation over here. India specifically, where agriculture is heavily monsoon dependent, monsoon is erratic, and with climate change it is becoming more and more erratic. So crop failure is going to take place, and in that case, what is the adaptation? Crop insurance. And for that, in India we have Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So that is, these are adaptation aspects related to that. Mitigation aspect, already I have told you. Okay, they are same general. Mitigation, in mitigation would come natural farming, agroforestry, biochar use. This is what is two-pronged strategy of India to deal with climate change in agriculture. So this is all about climate smart agriculture. Based on this now, if we talk about the probable questions, practice questions for you, of course. Okay, first you can see again which of the following can be considered as practices of climate smart agriculture. Few practices have been given, you have to select it. The rules are same. The practice question, you are going to practice it. The answers to this you are going to find in the description of the video, and in the comment section. If you want to discuss any question, you can do so. So first question for practice. Based on this comes up the second question for practice, which is which of the following statements are correct regarding climate smart agriculture. And here the aspects, the characteristic feature of climate smart agriculture, like focuses on adaptation and mitigation, or easier to adopt. Third question was regarding precision agriculture, that just now I told you. You can see this third question also. Fourth question I have asked regarding climate bonds, that is, these are issued only by national governments, or they can be issued for the projects related to agriculture as well. Two statements over here regarding climate bonds. In addition to that, what we can get in the examination can be climate bond initiative as well, very important, or green bond also. So this is climate smart agriculture. Next news that we have got, this is from the business line. Wildlife panel clears defense infra projects in protected areas near LAC. The rest of the news was about the defense project basically, but for us, okay, which are these protected areas in news? And so over here, protected areas of Changthang High Altitude Cold Desert Wildlife Sanctuary, and second, that is Karakoram Nubra Shiok Wildlife Sanctuary. The two wildlife sanctuaries in news over here. So let's see this Changthang and Nubra Shiok, which is Karakoram Wildlife Sanctuary. First, the location of these two. The locations of these two, we are going to use this map, wherein first, that is the Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary. Now, Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary, Changthang is a plateau. Changthang Plateau, high altitude plateau, which is there, which is present in the eastern Ladakh region, roughly covering this area. So overall, this whole area is covered in which you can remember it pretty much with this lake, which is Pangong So Lake, or So Mori and So Kar Lake. So we have Pangong So Lake, So Mori Lake, or So Kar Lake. All of these popular ones, they are on Changthang Plateau. That is the first thing. Now Changthang Plateau, Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary, which is there, okay, it is located at a height of above 4,000 meters, reaching up to almost 5,700, 5,800 meters. So the altitude range is 4,000 to 5,700, 800 meters above mean sea level, which makes Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary to be one of the highest protected areas in the world. That's why the name Changthang High Altitude Wildlife Sanctuary. Now about this sanctuary, I'll again show you the location over here. You can see this part, the eastern Ladakh part. Okay, this is the Changthang Plateau. Now, this wildlife sanctuary, first of all, is known for its fauna. Flora, when we talk about, flora is limited over here because of the given height. And the most important flora that would be found over here would be rhododendrons only, which is the alpine vegetation. The fauna over here, important ones, include snow leopard, includes Tibetan wolf. So we have a snow leopard over here, we have Tibetan wolf over here, and most importantly, and what can be asked in the paper, is this species, which is black-necked crane. So black-necked crane. Now, about black-necked crane, Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary is the only place in India which is the breeding place for black-necked crane. This is one fact that you have to remember. So, the only breeding place in India, okay, that is Changthang High Altitude Wildlife Sanctuary. Along with that, another important aspect of Changthang Plateau is this tribe, that is Changpa tribes. So this Changpa tribe or Changpa community, okay, these are semi-nomadic tribes, and they rear a type of goat called as Changra goat. Changra goat or Changthang goat also it is called as. So Changra goat or Changthang goat, from which the famous Pashmina comes. So Pashmina wool, very famous one. Pashmina fiber comes from these Changra goats or Changthang goats. So these are the facts about the first Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary, about the being one of the highest alpine zone. Second, Changthang Plateau, of course, and the flora over there, which would be rhododendron mainly. Fauna will include snow leopards, Tibetan wolf, and it's the only breeding place in India for black-necked crane. And then the Changpa community, which is rearing Changra goat, a source of Pashmina wool. This is the first one. Second one which is Nubra Shyok Wildlife Sanctuary. Now Nubra Shyok Wildlife Sanctuary, this is also called as Karakoram Wildlife Sanctuary. And the location of this is in Leh region. So Leh region overall covering Karakoram range. This would be the Karakoram Nubra Shayok Wildlife Sanctuary. This also, if you see both of these now over here are along the international borders. So Changthang or Karakoram both share international borders. The Changthang with China part and Karakoram with China as well as Pakistan part. And again over here, most importantly, what I have to know is the important fauna over here. So important fauna over here, the first one that I find is the Tibetan antelope. This Tibetan antelope is also called as chiru. Second, of course, are snow leopards. And the third one, which is musk deer found over here. Although in any of the cases, there is no endemism, that I have to remember. Okay, these are spread across Himalayas. So there is no endemism, but these are the important species over here for Karakoram Wildlife Sanctuary. So based on this news, now if I take the types of question, which would be pretty straightforward questions. Okay, Changthang Plateau location, that is question 5. Question 6, I see I have asked you which of the following is the only breeding place of endangered black-necked crane in India. Very straightforward answer, but I'm showing you the type of questions which are generally asked from here. And question 7, which is related to which of the following protected areas in India share international border. Given few you know, okay, the other ones you are going to find out. So these are this is the question related to the protected areas with international borders. So these are the different practice questions, and the news basically came up with respect to environment and one agriculture one that came up. This is the analysis of the news from 11th January. So see you in the next video with 12th January analysis.